Mr. Speaker, March 14, 2014, Chipman and Doketown, New Brunswick. At events today in Chipman and Doketown, J.D. Irving Limited announced $38 million in investments to modernize company sawmills in Chipman and Doketown. The Mayor of Doketown had this to say: "From the village of Doketown operates Atlantic Canada's largest white pine mill and our largest employer. Renewable forest and a significant investment in a new mill means new jobs for construction workers and the woodlands. This is great news for the 24 businesses in our village that supply the mill," said Bev Gaston, Mayor of Doketown. What will the Premier do to ensure that Doketown gets its new mill?
Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member opposite for the question. And you know, it's really good that we start talking about some of the pillar industries in this province: forestry, fishing, farming.
Order.
With the forestry sector, Mr. Speaker, we have 22,000 people that are boots on the ground doing work, Mr. Speaker. And I got to tell you something, there's so much innovation out there. They have so many challenges. At the same time, we've got so many opportunities in the forestry sector, Mr. Speaker. It's over $1 billion, and it's paying towards things such as healthcare and education, Mr. Speaker, at the same time creating many jobs. And I think the points that the member opposite brings across the floor is very important, but at the same time, back in 2014, I think they were in government, Mr. Speaker. I think they were in government, and this is something that we're working on. But at the same token, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite, the language that he used in the media, that he went after, he said, "Stick it to this company, Mr. Speaker." On this side of the House, we're going to have dialogue. We'll pick up the phone and talk to them. I don't understand what...
Prime Minister. Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay.
Mr. Speaker, that wasn't an answer, and you can't put a price on pride. Yesterday's announcement about the Doketown Mill by JDI brings those Liberal attack ads back into the spotlight for the people of my riding. The Premier has tried to link our leader to big business, even though it was he, the Premier, who paid a New Jersey company to cut the Canaport LNG assessment by 2/3. It was this Premier who broke his campaign promise on the forestry plan. Well, what a glorious opportunity for this Premier to show he's not joined at the hip with big business. JDI in particular. Will this Premier get on his feet, play a firm hand with a corporate giant, and ensure that Doketown, New Brunswick gets their new mill?
The Honourable the Premier.
It certainly is an opportunity to talk about the contrast, Mr. Speaker, because it was actually the Leader of the Opposition, when he was the Minister of Finance's government, that signed the deal that has market conditions as one of the things in which the business is able to get out of some of the investments, Mr. Speaker. So it is, in fact, the member opposite's former government that signed this deal with this big business, allowing them to announce what they did yesterday. They can try to deflect and they can try to blame others, but they need to look in the mirror. And while they're doing that, Mr. Speaker, this is the second time in 2 days that members opposite are raising this LNG tax break. That was given by a Conservative government. That was repealed by our Liberal government. Because of the repeal, the LNG terminal is paying more in taxes. Because of our ripping up the deal, the LNG terminal is giving more money to the City of St. John. I would now like the Leader of the Opposition to get up, take leadership and ownership, and say what he did to support and promote this deal.
Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would note that all other projects are in progress, many completed, despite the tariff, all except for Doketown. Remember, this is a 2 to 3 year project, and it'll be 4 years when March rolls around. So there is no excuse for the tariff, and there's no excuse for the market conditions, because all of the other projects are almost completed, most of them. $37 million for the sawmill in Chipman, $15 million for Doketown. Where's the $15 million? Remember, JDI has received far lower tariffs than anyone else in our province, so I will ask again, what will the Premier of New Brunswick do to ensure that Doketown gets its new mill?
Hear, hear. Thank you. The Honourable the Premier.
Well, one thing we're going to do, Mr. Speaker, is not sign deals like the one the opposition did when they were in government. And, Mr. Speaker, we'll take responsibility for the contracts and deals we sign. We'll take responsibility for the contracts and deals that we promote and support. I would wonder if the Leader of the Opposition will now get up and do the same, Mr. Speaker. Will he get up and maybe explain the deal in which he signed with the big businesses in which the member opposite is referring when he was in government? Will he get up, Mr. Speaker, and explain how he supported and promoted the LNG tax break, Mr. Speaker? He said he did not. We yet have documents saying very much the opposite. We will certainly give him the benefit of the doubt if he wants to explain how these documents are not accurate, then that's fine. But, Mr. Speaker, the people of New Brunswick deserve to have a Leader of the Opposition that takes responsibility and ownership for these types of things, so I invite the Leader of the Opposition to do just that.